The 1965 classic The Sound of Music captured hearts around the world with its uplifting story, breathtaking landscapes, and unforgettable songs. But behind the curtain of cinematic brilliance lies a much darker, lesser-known reality. The lives of its beloved cast members were marked by pain, loss, and quiet struggles that few ever knew. Though they brought joy and inspiration to millions, many of the actors faced heartbreaking personal battles long after the final scene faded to black. From sudden illnesses and tragic accidents to emotional turmoil and silent suffering, their real-life journeys were often a stark contrast to the joyful characters they portrayed. Each one met their end in a way that was as unique as it was sorrowful, stories rarely told, shadows cast over their golden years. In this article, we delve into the hidden truths and untold endings of these talented individuals, honoring their immense contributions to a film that became a timeless cultural touchstone. As we remember the magic they brought to The Sound of Music, we also pay tribute to the strength they showed beyond the screen, in lives filled with both triumph and tragedy. In a tone of quiet tragedy, we remember Heather Menzies-Urich, born in 1949, who portrayed Louisa Von Trapp in The Sound of Music. As a child actress, she possessed a mischievous glint that brought life to the spirited Louisa. But Heather's journey through Hollywood was fragmented and haunted by impermanence. After her breakout role, she appeared in cult television classics like Logan's Run and various guest roles, yet never again reached the luminous heights of her film debut. She married actor Robert Urich, and together they had 3 children, adopting 2. Their love story, while often hailed as a rare example of Hollywood devotion, was shadowed by immense pain. When Robert was diagnosed with cancer, Heather stood by him through his long and painful battle until his death in 2002, a loss that shattered her. In his memory, she founded the Urich Fund for Cancer Research, but her own fight was looming. In 2017, Heather was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer and passed away within a month. She died at 68, alone in her thoughts, perhaps dreaming of alpine meadows and the sound of music, the echo of which had long faded from her own life. Christopher Plummer, 1929 to 2021, played the commanding and austere Captain George Von Trapp, a widowed naval officer whose heart slowly softens in the warmth of Maria's love in The Sound of Music, 1965. Known for his magnetic presence and deep, resonant voice, Plummer's career stretched over 7 decades, with critically acclaimed performances in Beginners, 2010, for which he won an Academy Award, and The Insider, 1999. But behind the polished performances was a man often shadowed by loneliness. Plummer struggled with emotional distance and his own demons, which he traced back to his childhood. His parents separated shortly after his birth, and he was raised by his mother and grandfather in a cold, formal household. His relationship with his only daughter, actress Amanda Plummer, was complex and strained, plagued by long periods of silence and regret. Plummer married 3 times. His early marriages were rocky and filled with misunderstandings, mirroring the distance he often portrayed on screen. Though he found some peace in his later years, his death at age 91 came after a fall that resulted in a head injury, an unceremonious end for a man of grandeur, who once filled stages and screens with noble elegance. The suddenness of his passing left a hollow silence in the hearts of those who revered his artistry, a gentle fade-out to a life that never truly settled. Anna Lee, born in 1913 in Kent, England, brought a quiet grace to the role of Sister Margareta in The Sound of Music, 1965, a nun torn between duty and compassion, siding with Maria in moments of gentle rebellion. Before that, she had enjoyed a glittering career in British cinema, once hailed as the British bombshell, gracing films like The Four Feathers, 1939, and How Green Was My Valley, 1941. But behind the screen's golden sheen, Lee's personal life was marked by upheaval. Her first marriage to director Robert Stevenson crumbled, and though she later married George Stafford, her happiness was short-lived. Tragedy came crashing down in 1981 when a horrific car accident left her paralyzed from the waist down. Yet she refused to surrender to despair, continuing to act in General Hospital while confined to a wheelchair. But the years were heavy. Her son, also an actor, died young, another cruel twist in a life that had known too much loss. When Anna Lee died in 2004 at the age of 91, it was quietly and without the fanfare she had once commanded. Her ashes were scattered, unceremoniously, far from the limelight. She had once dreamed of eternal recognition, but in the end, Hollywood barely whispered her name. Portia Nelson was born in 1920, and her role as Sister Baird in The Sound of Music cast her as the critical, somewhat skeptical nun, a sharp contrast to the sweetness of the Abbey's other sisters. Her life was steeped in a quiet kind of sorrow, a classically trained singer who never quite found the stage that could hold the full weight of her talent. Nelson appeared in small but memorable roles, including Dr. Dolittle, 1967. Yet she remained, for much of her life, a woman on the fringes of fame, of love, of belonging. A gifted songwriter, she poured her aching vulnerability into her lyrics, penning, "I'm a stranger here myself," a fitting lament for someone whose life always felt just out of sync with the world around her. She never married, and her romantic life remained largely private, though those close to her whispered of heartbreaks and relationships stifled by the times she lived in. Later, she battled breast cancer with quiet dignity, but the disease returned with a vengeance. She died in 2001, aged 80, her voice, once so rich and full of yearning, silenced in a sterile hospital room in Manhattan. Few were there to hear her final breath, but the longing in her songs still haunts those who listen. Eleanor Parker, 1922 to 2013, who portrayed the sophisticated and poised Baroness Elsa Schrader, was elegance personified in The Sound of Music. She was the charming foil to Maria, portraying a woman of grace who ultimately walks away from love that she could not hold. Parker was a three-time Oscar nominee, recognized for her versatility in films such as Interrupted Melody, 1955, and Caged, 1950, where she portrayed a brutalized woman behind bars, a performance that earned her wide acclaim and revealed the pain beneath her composed surface. Her real life was far from the composed figure she so often portrayed. She was married 4 times, each union ending in quiet devastation. Her relationships were marred by miscommunication, neglect, and, in some cases, betrayal. Her children, while loving, spoke of her as a deeply private woman, often emotionally distant, forever keeping parts of herself locked away. The silver screen was her sanctuary, a place where she could live many lives, perhaps in search of one that truly fulfilled her. Her death in 2013, from complications related to pneumonia, was mourned by many, but it passed quietly in the headlines, just as she had feared, to be forgotten by a world she once captivated. Her fading echoed a sorrow she long harbored, that fame is fleeting, and love, even more so. Richard Haydn, 1905 to 1985, brought a peculiar charm to the role of Max Detweiler, the slick and often self-interested impresario in The Sound of Music, 1965, whose love for music triumphed over politics. Known for his distinctive, clipped diction and eccentric characters, Haydn made a memorable mark in films such as Alice in Wonderland, 1951, where he voiced the caterpillar, and in Then There Were None, 1945. Behind the whimsical facade, however, was a deeply reclusive man, known in Hollywood circles for his aloofness and guarded privacy. He never married, and close friends were few. He kept his personal life hidden in shadows, even as he brought color and humor to others. Some speculated about loneliness, others about heartbreaks that never found words. His death in 1985 from a heart attack came quietly, like the man himself, in the solitude of his Los Angeles home. There was no crowd, no final curtain call, only silence, and the gentle closing of a life that had always been lived just slightly out of reach. Peggy Wood, 1892 to 1978, whose luminous presence as the Mother Abbess in The Sound of Music, 1965, gave the film its spiritual core, was a beloved figure of stage and screen, known as much for her grace as for her resilience. Long before she sang Climb Every Mountain with quiet power, though her singing voice was dubbed due to frailty, she had dazzled Broadway and early television, earning a Primetime Emmy nomination for Mama, 1949 to 1957. But Peggy's personal life was threaded with sorrow. Her husband, writer John Van Alstyne Weaver, died just 4 years into their marriage, leaving her a widow at 36 with their son, David. Though she carried on, raising David while maintaining her career, the loneliness of widowhood never left her. Her relationship with her son, while loving, was complicated by the demands of fame and the distance it created. Toward the end of her life, illness crept in, first strokes, then the slow erosion of memory. She passed away in 1978, aged 86, in a nursing home in California, far from the footlights that once adored her. The woman who once gave voice to unwavering faith departed in frailty and fading light, her final years a quiet descent into forgetfulness. Born in 1942, Charmian Carr was the picture of radiant innocence when she portrayed Liesl Von Trapp, the eldest of the Von Trapp children, in the beloved 1965 musical film The Sound of Music. With her soft voice and wide-eyed charm, she captured hearts in the tender duet 16 Going on 17, creating a role that would forever define her in the public imagination. But behind the scenes, Charmian's life never mirrored the golden glow of the Austrian hills. She stepped away from acting soon after the film, claiming the Hollywood lifestyle was never meant for her. Her marriage to dentist Jay Brent brought 2 daughters, but ended in divorce, and she never remarried. She later ran an interior design business, but the shadows of regret lingered. Carr admitted later in life that she was not allowed to pursue her dreams or education the way she had hoped. In her final years, she suffered from the devastating effects of frontotemporal dementia, a cruel erosion of memory and self. In 2016, she passed away at the age of 73 in Los Angeles, a city of bright lights where her own seemed to dim too soon, surrounded not by fanfare but by silence, her voice echoing only in the memories of those who still heard her sing in the rain-drenched gazebo. What are your thoughts on the passing of the actors from The Sound of Music, and who do you miss the most among them? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our latest videos.